Welcome to Women of the World, a show which gives a voice to women from around the world who have chosen to make the United States their home. Here's today's moderator, Nadia Giordana.
Hello and welcome to Women of the World. I'm Nadia Giordana. We have a fun panel discussion for you today. Our co-hosts have gathered together to share between each other the respective traditions and holidays celebrated in their homeland countries, and even some of the exciting foods that they prepare. Let's go meet the ladies and hear what they have to share with us. All right, let's meet our co-host, Barbara Lavalor. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Nadia. I'm so glad to be here.
It's going to be a great discussion of our family holiday heritages and our country of origin, or countries in Europe where we've lived, as it is in your case. So we're going to have a wide variety of holiday discussions to share with each other. Melissa Nambangi.
Hi.
Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here. And Anne Makena.
Hello, Nadia. It's good to be here. And I'm excited for the show.
It's good to have you here, and it's going to be a good show, as I mentioned. Let's start out by, I'll start out. I'll mention my family's country of origin is Slovenia, which years ago was part of Yugoslavia. So they have some different holiday traditions. I remember not because I grew up there, I grew up in the United States. My memories come from hearing my mother talk about Christmas and New Year's, and Easter were the main things. Christmas, New Year's, Christmas and through Christmas and New Year's, but New Year's especially. You know, here in the United States, we have Father Time and the New Year's baby. But in Slovenia, they have Old Man Winter. That's what they call him, Old Man Winter. And all the people in the little towns, generally in small towns, they all go out and gather in the town square, regardless of the weather, and have a celebration. In the mountains, they have house parties and keep it smaller because I'm sure travel was very hard at that time. And I'm losing my voice for a minute, so I'm going to pass it on to Anne. Why don't you share some traditions from, is it Kenya where you are from?
Yep, I am from Kenya. And yeah, basically the major tradition for the holidays is Christmas and New Year's. So yeah, personally, I was born and raised there. So it's big holidays, really, really big. We call it Christmas because Kenya is a very Christian country. And so we stick to what Christmas means. It's Christmas, it's about Jesus. And so we have church and we have a lot of food, a lot of family celebrations. What I remember is being younger, if you had family coming over, we would spend the day in the kitchen cooking for people and then not really sitting down to celebrate. And as we got older, we started complaining about that. We have people coming, but instead of sitting and celebrating together, we were in the kitchen cooking and cleaning dishes. So I remember starting to grow up and starting to change that, so that we could all celebrate. So we could probably cook a day earlier. That way, on the actual day, we are really celebrating. And but it was very fun times. A lot of very loud music, cooking food, celebrations.
Must be a lot of food prepared for a big feast.
Lots of people. We would have like 3-4 families. You'd have like 50 people all around, talking, trying to talk on top of the music and, you know, dancing, but it's very good memories.
I think a little later when we go around again, we'll talk about some of the dishes that we cook. We'll do that in a little bit later. Melissa, please
Yes.
share.
Well, Cameroon, where I come from, there are two major holidays. I've talked before about the French-speaking part of the country and the English-speaking part. In the English-speaking part of the country, Christmas is the most popular. In fact, Cameroonians abroad, whenever they plan on going home, they want to go around Christmas because that is when you are guaranteed of meeting almost every family member. A lot of families get together for Christmas. It's almost like what you do here for Thanksgiving, where families get together. For us, it is Christmas. Our own Thanksgiving is more a thing of the church. So that's a church celebration. But Christmas, all the family gets together. And just like Anne mentioned, a lot of cooking, a lot of music, a lot of dancing. And people, everybody who kind of is a well-wisher or so would want to drop by and just say, well, we say Happy Christmas. And the kids, they will go from door to door, almost like Thanksgiving, like Halloween actually. The kids will go from neighbor to neighbor just to say Happy Christmas, and the neighbor will give them some candy, some cookies, those kinds of things. And they have to go around to all the friends of the family, come to wish you a Happy Christmas. And you get whatever you get from them, and you go back home to your parents. So it's a big thing. In the French-speaking side, not so excited about Christmas. They are more about New Year's Day. That is when they really roll it in from the 31st right to the 1st of January, celebrating. And there are a lot of exciting ways that is done, which I may talk if we have more time. The New Year's and members of governments wishing New Year to whoever is above you. So you're in the offices also, you wish Happy New Year to your boss with presents, of course. So it's kind of cool.
We will have more time. Yes, we will revisit that. And Barbara.
Yes, I have the good fortune to have a mixture of 3 different cultures. The culture I grew up in is rural Minnesota. And as Melissa and Anne mentioned, and you too, Nadia, it's all about family. And Christmas is the biggest holiday, at least when I was growing up. I also spent 20 years living in Europe and was married to an Englishman and had 2 children. So we lived in England for the first 2.5 years. Then we moved to Germany for over 18 years. So I had the advantage of learning different traditions in those cultures. And I would say that, currently, now back living in the States for the last 25 years, I use a Mischung, as they say in German, a mixture of all 3. For example, growing up, there was a lot, in Minnesota, we have a lot of snow. So it's centered around ice skating and maybe skiing down the little hills on our farm, but also gathering together and opening presents on Christmas Eve was a big deal. Then in England, people open their presents traditionally on Christmas morning, as they do in Germany as well. So for 20 years, I did that. And now we're back to opening gifts on Christmas Eve. But there's also a lot of different celebrations that I think are traditions, I should say. For example, the English have Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas Day. And that was traditionally a day to give the the servants or the hired help a day off. So they were given a lot, the leftovers from the Christmas meal to take home and have the day off. And nowadays, that's a day that people celebrate with friends, and they have wine and cheese gatherings and celebrate in that way. And we did that while we were living in England and Germany as well. And there's another tradition that I think is kind of fun. You make in September, you make the Christmas pudding usually, which is also called plum pudding, but I call it Christmas pudding. And a lot of people put in a halfpenny or a halfpenny. It's a tiny little coin, the smallest there is. They probably don't even make it anymore. And that's put in the dough when you mix up this fruit cake, which is Christmas pudding, before it's steamed for hours. And whoever gets the piece with the halfpenny in it has good luck for the next year.
That's fantastic. I love these little traditions. And the idea of the day after Christmas being a special occasion, I like. And I noticed that in my personal family, which probably tends to be more American than anything, since this is where most of us grew up, except for my mother, we always did do something the day after Christmas with friends and maybe other factions of the family, because one holiday day just wasn't enough to do everything, and everybody had certain obligations. So I always thought it was a good idea to do something the day after Christmas. And as I was looking online for some different holidays, I noticed that several European countries had a holiday the day after Christmas, much like All Saints Day is the day after Halloween. There were one had like our 4th of July, their Independence Day. I think that was Slovenia. They have two different kinds of independence, but one was the day after Christmas. And I found that interesting that there are a lot of different cultures that have something going on the day after Christmas. I do remember in my individual family, my mother told me this, I think they have Father Christmas, not Santa Claus, but it's the same premise. He dresses up, and of course there are stockings. And as a child, this made me feel so badly, even though it had happened 50 years before. My mother told me about my uncle, her brother, the brother that was always getting into trouble. One Christmas actually did get a lump of coal in his stocking. And I said, well, did he get a present later? Mom says, no, he didn't. He got a lump of coal that year. And oh, that doesn't really happen.
It probably happened earlier more than we think. I mean, it seems cruel right now, but I can see it happening.
Yeah, the reason we have those fables is because it did happen. Anne, how about you?
Well, we didn't have, okay, so I don't remember, we weren't big on presents. So Christmas was very much associated with the church, so celebration of the birth of Jesus. What we got, we were very assured to have some new beautiful clothes, shoes, look the best when you went to church on Christmas. But we weren't big on gifts. On Christmas, it was more food and family celebrations. And then living in United States for over 20 years, so I, started seeing the gifts. And I think for me, I try to stay away from the gifts because I feel like the gift here in United States really makes Christmas a very heavy, sad season instead of celebration, because people are thinking about how much money they're gonna spend, buy gifts for every person, who is not gonna like the gift that I give them, who is going to be offended, who's going to give me a gift and expect a different gift or a bigger gift. And there just seem to be so much, not celebration, but
Obligation.
training and obligation. And that has made me think, you know, I think we were pretty smart in Kenya to not do gifts. And so I kind of, you know, go back to that, and I stay away from gifts, because I really personally, that after all this experience of difference in how we celebrate Christmas, I go back to the roots of why I celebrate Christmas. And so I stay away from gifts. New Year's, basically, like Melissa mentioned earlier, is also a very big celebration where people stay awake and wait for the New Year's and make their wishes and all that. And then it depends, because when families have had a death in the previous year, there's almost a taboo to not want to wait for the next year, New Year's, because families tend to think, well, we waited for last year and we were excited and bad things happened. So let's just go to sleep early. And that's what I remember about the New Year's. But it was also a huge celebration, welcoming the new year. And the thinking that how I start my year makes a big impact on how the rest of the year goes. Yeah.
It does, doesn't it? It really makes an impact. I like the idea of less focus on gifts and more focus on what the holiday is about. I think we could all do better with that one. Melissa.
Well, I grew up with a father who worked with the British. So we were all into Father Christmas and getting gifts at Christmas. And of course, the new dresses and shoes and everything. We had our Christmas clothes. And a lot of Cameroonians of my generation of that same mostly came from that background. The thing that differs is as we grow older, that you start hearing people say, oh, Christmas is for children. So the gift giving doesn't go beyond the children's age. The older ones, we really don't get gifts. You might give if you feel like, but it's not expected. What we focus on is the kind of food that we prepare for Christmas and who we spend it with. And then we do have other holidays which are celebrated because our country recognizes the Christian and the Muslim faith. We get to celebrate all the Muslim holidays. Not really celebrating like the Muslims will, but we get the day off work, and that really matters. We get the day off work, and then if you have a Muslim neighbor, you get to really enjoy their holiday because they have all these traditions of feed your neighbor, feed the poor. So even though I wasn't one of the poor, I hope not, I knew that for about 7 days of one of the Muslim feasts. I don't know if it's the Feast of the Ram or Tabaski, one of them. Every day your neighbor is sending you food, you know, and quite a lot for everybody in your house. And so we do have many of those feasts. And then I think the other thing I was confused, maybe we will talk about that on some other program, but there are certain festivals. So I guess those might be different because we have regional areas with particular festivals that are very interesting and have their own meaning behind them. But when it comes to holidays, we have many because of the Christian and the Muslim faith.
You know what I'd like to hear is, starting with Barbara, one or two of your favorite holiday foods. And
I would have to say, I used to make, when I lived in Europe, I made a Christmas pudding and a Christmas cake, which are both heavy fruit cakes, which my family growing up did not like. And I think it's only because they weren't used to it. I love that kind of cake. That said, I try not to eat that kind of food anymore, even though I love it. So I haven't made it maybe more than once or twice since I got back. I did want to mention one British tradition, which is Christmas crackers. And it's not something to eat. It's a decoration you put on the plates for the Christmas meal. And they have fun things inside, including a silly paper hat, a game or a puzzle or something, and you pull it with the person next to you and it makes a snap. And then everybody puts on their Christmas hat while they're eating their Christmas meal. And it's really a fun tradition. And we do that still. And if I can just talk a little bit about German Christmas, I think there's a couple of things, and it's not necessarily food, but it starts with the Advent calendar on December 1st. Advent calendars are a really big deal. I know that they now have them here in the United States as well, but those can be really simple things with just a little piece of chocolate inside, or you can make an actual small gift and hang it on a specific Advent tree. So there's that, and of course the Advent wreaths. And I know that in my own church, we gather to make Advent wreaths every year at the end of November. And then the one thing that I love the most about Christmas in Germany are the Christmas markets and the Glühwein, which is mulled wine. There at the Christmas markets, you could buy spices, foods, gifts, I mean, just so many things. And in downtown Minneapolis, they have a Christmas market in Loring Park, which I think is very similar to the German Christmas markets. It's just a lovely time of the year. Nuremberg is famous for its Christmas market. And if you're planning a trip to Germany, I would go in December.
Sounds fun. I've heard all about those Christmas markets. Someday I'll see one.
They're lovely.
One of the foods and I haven't had this very often because it's not something that my mother brought back and made. I learned about it. But sticking with the Slovenian traditions, Potiza, which is a sweet bread, I guess you could think of almost like cinnamon rolls, but it's usually filled with fruit and nuts. I like it when it's filled with that poppy seed paste. Oh. And I've had it a few times in my life, and it's so delicious. So if I find a nice Slovenian lady who knows how to make it from scratch, I'm going to make her my best friend and invite her over for the holidays.
That reminds me of Stollen. I forgot about the
Stollen.
Stollen. Oh, I love that. And now you can get that in bakeries here.
So in Kenya, the major thing that people made it's chapati. And chapati is a lot of work, but it's very good bread. It's a non-leaven bread. So you make the dough and you roll it and shallow fry it. That was it with either beef stew. We also would make mung beans with vegetables. And the other thing people made is Mandazi and samosa. Samosa is made with beef. And here we improvise the egg roll wrapper because it's easier. And you deep fry, you cook up ground beef and probably some peas and onions, and then you wrap it up and deep fry. So that's the kind of, a lot of pastry. And then tea is a must. In Kenya, people drink a lot of tea. Tea for breakfast, tea at 10, tea after lunch, tea at 4, tea, it's tea all day long. So there's plenty of tea all the time, basically for food, so.
Melissa.
Yeah, well, it was always so much fun, especially with my mom, because she had 8 of us. So you can imagine her little, a little team around her and preparing for Christmas. One of the favorite things we liked is a pastry we call ching ching. I have looked, I can't really tell, I can't see anything around here that I can say is the same as ching ching, but it's basically flour with butter and eggs and sugar, but the way it's made. Now, because of commercialization, a lot of people make and sell this stuff and it doesn't taste the same at all. It's hard and crunchy. So when I came to my sister's house at Christmas and decided to make chin chin, it was the most exciting thing they could think of. You know, so we make chin chin the day before. It's a lot of work. You cut them very tiny, you make fun shapes with them and you fry them. So it takes a lot of time to make just fair quantity. And that was one thing we do up till now. Then the meals, the big emphasis is on rice. Because rice is not native to our culture, we tend to look at it like a wonderful thing. And because, of course, if it's not native to your culture, it means you have to have enough money to be able to buy rice often. So most people who cannot afford to buy rice often, they know that it's a Christmas thing. And so you cook rice, and then we love some chickens, to stew the chicken to eat with the rice. So we do a lot of rice with chicken. You know, kill the chicken. You kill the chicken yourself. You cook it. And I want to mention a couple of things that happen around this whole idea of food, because not everybody has the same financial power. You have people who get together, maybe at work, maybe the neighbors, and they have something like throughout the year, they are putting together a little money towards Christmas because it's gonna be so much expensive. We call them njange. I hear words like susu. I hear other words that are the same idea. But you have this Christmas njange, and people are putting in little amounts. So we could decide, I could put in maybe $10 a month or $20 a month. And at the end of the year, we are going to buy a cow, because cows are very expensive. Because cattle is expensive, we'll buy a cow. So everybody, we can kill and share it out, and everybody will have enough meat for all the cooking they need to do at that time. And then, yeah, then they also have, then some of this Njange money will be maybe buy a bag of rice. So maybe 4 or 5 families will share the rice and prepare and even have extra for beyond the year, for after Christmas, and then give out food to your neighbors. You give those who cannot afford rice really appreciate it when they come to your house and you serve them rice.
Oh, that is fantastic. And we've run out of time for the show today.
Oh
You
my
ladies
gosh.
were wonderful. Barbara and Melissa and Anne, thank you for being here. And thank you all for watching us today. We'll see you next time on Women of the World.
Thank you.